Okay, I have a confession to make, you guys. I don't really remember most of the Warrior Cats books. I have actually forgotten probably more than I realize about what actually happens in the Warrior Cat series. And since we have been having so much fun going ahead and diving back in with our like a what if Warrior Cats kitten creation lately, and now that all of your excitement has gotten me really pumped to potentially do my best to fight tooth and nail with Sims 3 and see if we can potentially have a like Warrior Cats challenge return back to our channel. No promises, Sims 3 is a beast to work with, but it makes a perfect canvas to be able to play out our Warrior Cat stories on. I thought it would be really fun to go ahead and just confess to you guys that I don't remember what happens in most of the books. Not only that, but I thought it would be a lot of fun to go ahead and to try to tell you guys the plot of Warrior Cats, having forgotten pretty much all the books. Yeah, so I think this will be kind of cool. If you guys could be really careful in the comment section with maybe hiding your spoilers, I would love, maybe not to be spoiled, but I would love just to know like how on par I was, or if I'm really, really off the mark on some of the plot points that happen in the series. I think it'd be hilarious to see you guys laugh about it in the comments. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna admit to all of you, yeah, I actually haven't read most of the side novels. I haven't really read the novellas, and I barely touched some of the big like side stories that they have, like Blue Star's Prophecy and things like that. And the reason is, in my defense, I was there. I was there when the first Warrior Cat books actually came out. It turns out that they were originally released in 2003. I was 15 years old at the time. They were released 19 years ago. They are going to be celebrating their 20th anniversary, which is older than like a lot of people in our community. Wow. Very soon. So if I kind of shock some of you, it's like, Siri, how could you not know what happened in book 3 of Arc 5? It's because I actually was part of Into the Wild when it first released. I remember vividly standing in the checkout lane at a Walmart, turning, and they had some books there for some reason, which is a lot better than having candy at the checkout lane, just saying. And there was this book with this cat on the cover, and it was a book from a cat's point of view. And I decided to pick it up, and that began my lifelong love of reading Warriors. However, as I got older and the series kind of had big gaps in between the arcs, I missed out on some of it. And what I missed out on is probably about to make a somewhat ridiculous series of my point of view of where the Warrior Cat story goes. I'm a little nervous to do this, to be honest, and I debated about taking notes and like trying to go through all of my memory of what I remember of the series before I sat down with you guys so I could at least seem somewhat competent, but I think that that would be cheating. So without further ado, and hopefully with a lot of you guys to help correct me without spoilers, I'm going to tell you the story of Warrior Cats from the beginning of Into the Wild to where I last remember the story leaving off, and we're going to see how terribly, terribly, terribly off the mark I happen to be. Oh heck yeah, I almost forgot. Like, if you have not read the books or you don't want to be spoiled, don't watch this. Stop now, hold your peace, because this is going to be like potentially a lot of spoilers, maybe. So don't pass go if you don't want to be spoiled. All right, so I believe it began with a young kitten born into a house with humans in it to a kitty pet mother, and his name was Rusty, which was very original because I think he's an orange tomcat, and that's about as original as naming your white cat or your white hamster like Snowy. But there you have it, his name was Rusty, and he was a really ambitious little tiny kitten. He really loved playing out in the garden, and he was really curious about what was past the fence, and I think he actually ran into another young juvenile cat, at which state we learn they will be called Paws, and he started making friends with this cat through the fence. So he decided to go ahead and like run away from his kitty pet household life and follow this other cat who may or may not have been Gray Paw. I could be potentially completely wrong about that. But Graypaw and Rusty ran away together to Graypaw's home, which was ThunderClan, because it turns out we have 4 clans of wildcats living in the forest, the river, the wild plains, and the rocky dump area of this like kitty pet household backyard. I kind of imagine it's just a big empty suburban area, like behind a bunch of neighborhoods somewhere in England, I think. So Rusty runs away with Graypaw and he falls in love with the idea of being a tough, rough wildcat, because I think maybe at one point he like got to catch his own prey and he was like, wow, this awakens my bloodlust and I must now be a wild beast instead of just have these handouts from kitty pets. But of course he's like some pampered kitty pet cat, and so at first ThunderClan's leader Bluestar is like, absolutely heck no, you can't join us, you're gonna be a burden to our community. But I think then he does something either useful or saves someone's life, or is just so ridiculously stubborn that I think Spotted Leaf had something to do with it. Maybe she spoke up for him as the medicine cat and was like, no, Bluestar, we have to let this kid in because it's important to have genetic diversity in our clan. That's not what it was about. But anyway, they let him in on like a trial basis with the other young cats as they train to become warriors as paws. And then the first big arc of the stories go over him like making friends or enemies with some of the cats inside of the clan. He learns about the dramas of medicine cats can't fall in love because that's evil for some reason that I've always had big beef with, but we'll get into that later. Focus on the plot theory. We learned that we don't like Shadow Clan. We're kind of okay with River Clan and Wind Clan. And you have a gathering of the cats where everybody gets together and you kind of communicate what's been going on and settle your beef before you start trying to like tear each other apart at the clan borders again. So here we have little Rusty. He gets renamed to Firepaw, I believe. And then he proves himself as a warrior through a series of events that tumbled around in my head, look something like there was something with snake rocks. Very original name. There were a bunch of snakes that like to bask on the rocks, and some of them are apparently extremely venomous, like adders that you want to look out for. I think he helps out over there. I think he helps out some of the other paws. He's buddy with Spotted Leaf until, and also, okay, hang on one second. I realize I need to make a video cut at the beginning of the video and be like, spoiler warning. Okay, now that I've done that, let's see, where was I? So Spotted Leaf ends up dying somehow dramatically in a way that I was like, that's kind of Mary Sue-esque back when it happened. But she expires, and of course, Firepaw had secretly been in love with her, which is a whole other bit of kitten caboodle drama. We'll talk about that later. But he proves himself. Something bad happens with this cat who you know is bad news because he's got a dog collar on that I like to imagine he like punched a chihuahua in the face and stole it from some chihuahua with a punk collar on. And I think his name was either Scourge or Tiger Star. And I think it was Scourge because Tiger Star would be the leader of Shadow Clan, I think. And there was a medicine cat who was super old who I think got taken in by ThunderClan after Yellowfang, after Spotted Leaf died, because you need a medicine cat or else everybody's gonna get like a cold and die. And then somebody had a bunch of kittens and they were really cute, except one was an albino kitten named Snow Kit, and it got eaten by a hawk, which was really sad. And the moment when I was reading the books that I went like, oh wow, they're actually gonna do this, huh? Okay, let's dive in. It's a violent life for a wild cat, which is why you should spay and neuter your cats and keep them inside. Cats, coincidentally, just like in warrior cats, are one of the most destructive species to allow outside because they kill everything. Don't do it. That aside, yeah, we have Yellowfang in the clan now. Bluestar is getting depressed about something, and I'm not really sure about what it is, but she's leaning more and more on Firepaw to go ahead and help out. And then he is doing his best to try to help not only protect ThunderClan, but protect all of the clans as stuff starts happening around their home. The environment is starting to change a little bit. The Two Legs are building new things in the area, I think. And then drama happens in ThunderClan in the form that it always does, which is a illicit romance, when I think Gray Stripe, who by then is a warrior, along with Fire, I don't remember what his warrior name was. Like Fire, I'm just gonna call him Fire Rust or Fire Paw for now because I can't remember what his warrior cat name was. Oh no. But anyway, Fire's friend Gray, who I think was Gray Stripe, and it could be the wrong cat, ends up falling in love with a RiverClan cat, and apparently that's bad news, even though I think that's great for genetic diversity because inbreeding in your clan is going to have a lot of problems after a while. But he falls in love with a RiverClan cat. That's not allowed for some reason. And there's another cat who's also Fire's friend who ends up going like, oh, this is too much drama for me. And he leaves and moves out to a farm with this rogue cat who, it turns out, like, he and the rogue cat apparently had a romance that I didn't notice when I was younger because it was like a gay romance that was like off screen. And now I am like, oh, I don't know if that was canon, but that's how I'm interpreting it. So here's the mess of how far we have gotten. And then something happens with Yellow Fang being secretly the mother of the Shadow Clan leader. And the Shadow Clan leader is bad and evil because he's forcing the young kits in the clan to go and become paws before they're ready. So kind of like conscripting them to do all of this difficult work that's too dangerous for them, and they just like die like flies. And so he becomes more and more aggressive towards the other clans, and then something dramatic happens and Yellow Fang is put in charge of Tiger Star, I think. I don't know where like Scourge went in all of this, but he's somewhere, maybe later. Like I told you, it's gonna be a mess for what I remember. But Yellow Fang ends up being dramatically Tiger Star's mom, and that was a secret because you're not allowed to have kits as a medicine cat. Oh, whoa, and drama and weird plot point, like stuff. Like I have issues with that. We'll talk more about that later. But then Yellow Fang ends up ending the evil reign of Tiger Star by feeding him poisonous berries that I think were yarrow berries. And then he dies, and then I think she dies shortly afterward as she feels that she has at least put the evils to rest. And I remember thinking, this is kind of disturbing that they're like punishing this cat for having fallen in love and having kittens by making it so that her son turned out to be super evil and killed a bunch of kittens. Like, see, she broke the code. Clearly, because she fell in love and had kits, we couldn't just have somebody in the dens take care of these kits. We had to make sure that her children were evil incarnate so that there's some sort of weird purity assigned to medicine cats that I've never loved. But I'm messing up the plot now. That is the most thorough of the plot I can remember, and now we are going to move because I think they're building a mall where like WindClan was supposed to live, and somehow the great tree either caught on fire or it got cut down by the Two Legs. All the clans are starting to starve. Drama is happening. Blue Star is extremely depressed, and this is where Fire Star has to step forward somehow in order to go ahead and take on his 9 lives and lead all of the clans to safety, I think. Yeah, I have a feeling I got a few things wrong already, but let's carry on. Then all of the clans are now leaving where they have historically lived because the Two Legs are making it too dangerous to live there, and like building a mall or something. And so they go on this big journey that somehow involved highways, thunder paths in other words, and then making their way to a mountain range, which I thought was really interesting. Like, I was surprised that they lived so close to a mountain range. But they go up a mountain and they meet another clan. I think this is the Lost Sky Clan, maybe. And I remember when this clan was introduced, I was a little surprised by the way that they kind of seemed to be a riff off of like Native Americans. And I didn't know how I felt about that, and I still have complicated feelings about that because there was just a lot of tropes that I wasn't sure how I felt about that mixed in with what I think is SkyClan but might not be SkyClan. But they were the cats of the mountains who saw all of these stranger cats coming in, and they helped them to get up the mountain range and took them into a big giant pool area. They had a cave with a pool. They had a very different way of living, and they kind of provided a refuge for all of the cats for a little bit while all of the cats from the clans are trying to recover and figure out where to go from here. And while they're trying to figure out where to go from there, I think a mountain lion attacks or a bobcat. At which point my little pixel biology brain was like, wait, okay, so are we in England or are we not? Are there bobcats in England? I don't think there's bobcats in England. Did something escape from a zoo? And I vividly remember being so confused about why there was a gigantic felid of some type that I think was probably a bobcat, maybe a mountain lion, that was raiding these mountains and attacking all of the little cats. And I also remember being really confused about, if you can talk to two legs and you can talk to dogs, why can't you talk to this cat? This big cat, this big giant cat. But the big giant cat raids them. I think Firestar does some sort of main character energy thing with Graystripe at his side, and they defeat the cougar by knocking a stalactite. I remember it's a stalactite because it holds tight to the ceiling, onto its head, and it dies and frees SkyClan from like this curse they've been living under with this cat. And now that that is gone, they're able to go ahead and continue through the mountain range. They go through the mountain range and they find the perfect valley waiting for them. Farmland! Farmland with a bunch of forest and some swampland that RiverClan's gonna move into. I think there's like an abandoned house, abandoned cabin with a medical garden, a lot of herbs growing there, which is great for all the medicine cats, and they kind of share that spot, I think. Or ThunderClan and ShadowClan got it. And then WindClan goes off to windy spots, and RiverClan gets the marsh, and ThunderClan gets the forest. And it's a really beautiful forest. They have a new den that's protected by a bunch of briars, and it's sort of set up against a cliff with a fallen tree, I think. So now we're in a new land. Huzzah, huzzah. I think Bluestar has either passed away by now, or she has gone ahead and stepped down because she's just a broken cat inside for reasons that apparently we really go into in like her own side stories, which I have never read, but I want to now. And then Firestar steps up. He now has some kits of his own, so we're starting to enter generation 2 of like all of the series. Graystripe also has kits with his RiverClan cat, and the kits kind of scatter between the clans as they try to figure out where their loyalties belong. And then there's some sort of romance with WindClan that goes bad, but that might be one of Firestar's kits that happens to. So we're here at this new home. The kittens are born. We start following their stories instead of focusing on Firestar and that generation. We introduce one of my all-time favorite set of characters, which would be Mothpaw. Yeah, I love Mothpaw, who becomes Mothwing. She's still one of my favorite characters. And Leafpool, who also is still one of my absolute favorite characters, and Jayfeather. We introduce Blind Jayfeather, who absolutely is one of my favorites. I think he's either the son or the grandson of Firestar. I can't remember at this point. And he is introduced, and he has a stick that he really loves, and he and his two siblings always get into so much trouble. They are like tumbling into a ridiculous number of tunnels that are around this new ThunderClan den. I remember thinking, like, why are there just like dungeons and caverns that go off into the distance in every direction around this den? But there's just seemingly endless tunnels around the new ThunderClan area, and that causes trouble when cats are able to get lost in it, when kits fall into it, and when cats start raiding from it. And this is where things start really going off the rails, and also my memory starts getting really wibbly. There's some sort of romance between ThunderClan and WindClan that goes bad, really bad, like next level bad. I think that's actually where Jayfeather and his siblings come from, is they're the kits from that result. And that was just high drama at high noon, and it had to do, once again, surprise, surprise, with something about medicine cats not being allowed to have kits. Jayfeather ends up starting to train as a medicine cat, I think, or something of that ilk. I loved Moth because she started questioning if StarClan was real, and I thought having an atheist character might like introduce a scientific revolution amongst the cats, because I think for a minute there she was kind of playing with the idea of cause and effect and maybe going through the scientific process to try to figure out which herbs work the best on which sick cats. So I remember getting really excited about that. But it makes her and Leafpool like grow apart, because Leafpool, of course, to compensate for her friend being the atheist, gets like triple dipple dosed on prophecies and visions from StarClan. But then surprise, surprise, StarClan turns out to be evil. There was a plot twist that made me like really frustrated, because that's kind of what I wanted to do with my original Warrior Cat story. Spoilers for our Warrior Cat Sims 3 story, StarClan was actually going to be manipulating things from behind the stars of death, and kind of an evil force if the wrong cats were left unchecked in StarClan. That was what was going to happen in our series, and sure enough, even though we wrote our series first, this series comes out and the evil cats of the Dark Forest in StarClan end up taking over StarClan, and they end up starting to possess people possess cats in the overworld, which is where I really started going, what is going on? We have enough to live with, just the interpersonal drama and trying to survive day by day. What is happening here with like cats getting possessed? But cats do indeed start getting possessed, and I think somebody goes on a big journey with their buddy to try to figure out what to do about life at some point, I think to do with the possession, but I could be completely wrong. And they meet this cat who lives in an abandoned house called Sol, which, you know, S-O-L means the sun, and he has a cult that follows him, like a cult of kitty pet cats and rogues that follow him, and he's super charismatic and really weird and didn't seem like a cat at all. And he goes back because he feels like he has some sort of calling to go back to the clans to spread the word of Sol, and somehow his presence there helps to cause more drama or fix the drama with these cats from the Dark Forest possessing bodies. And at some point in all of this, Firestar ends up in a bear trap and loses one of his lives. And there's a lot of like, excitement and drama. And then everything kind of calms down and Sol walks away into the distant horizons. And that's all I remember. Yeah. So something tells me I got that really wrong. And something tells me maybe I remembered, and it's interesting to see, remembering certain key points of the story that might have nothing to do with each other or nothing that was really important but just really stood out to me at the time. But all of that to say, now that I have gotten out of the way what I think the Warrior Cats plot is, it's time to find out what it actually is. So this summer, I am hoping to do a reread of Warrior Cats. I want to do some vlogs with reacting to it, rereading Warrior Cats almost 20 years later. So I was a young kid when I first read it, and now I am a grown adult. I have read literally hundreds and hundreds of books since then, and it'd be interesting to go back to a middle grade series like this that has had such a big influence not only on my life, but on our community, and kind of just see what I think. There's already big chunks of the way the worlds work in Warrior Cats that I would yeet right out the window, and there's also things that bring me a lot of joy and excitement, and diving back into the original material, being able to kind of explore the stories, talking with you guys about it, is just going to help fuel the excitement that I feel about wanting to go ahead and make our own stories like we used to to revisit some of the worlds that we created, the clans we created, and to just enjoy the good parts of the series as well. So that's my plan. I hope to do a bunch of vlogs, maybe do some shorts, maybe do just some chit chats now and then where I can kind of talk to you guys about what I think as I reread the series. And if you guys would like to read along, I highly recommend it. I'm going to be starting with book 1 probably early next week, and I read very fast, so I'm actually thinking I'm going to see if I can read roughly an arc a week to an arc every 2 weeks. Shouldn't take me too long, and we'll read along and just see if this is going to be the Warrior Cats summer. We reread the content, we get super excited, we take what we love, we toss what we don't, and we move on with the creativity and joy of creating our own worlds and our own cats. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. But let me know how terribly off I was, if I forgot huge plot points, and if I stopped just when the getting was good. And there's a lot more out there to catch up on. So thank you guys so much for joining me. If you could, do please leave a like for all of our warrior cats. And if you'd like to join us on this and literally thousands more adventures, do please consider subscribing. But most importantly, stay very curious, like a cat. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.